Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and this is one of those videos that has been highly requested since the beginning of times, and I've been trying to avoid this because I don't know, I'll have to spill a little bit of personal information here if I have to do this particular topic, but I finally decided because every single time I do a Q&A, you guys keep asking about this same thing again and again, and I think it's really unfair that I gatekeep this information, especially because I'm on social media and I have a community that deserves an answer for these questions. In this video, I'll talk about my educational qualifications, what is my professional background, what do I do for a living, you know, how did I start my businesses, what are my income streams, a bunch of questions regarding my educational and professional background. I'm trying to avoid this whole conversation because there was a point in my life where I used to talk about my businesses quite a lot on my page, and then I completely stopped doing that because it was just creating a lot of random, unexpected obstacles for my businesses. And I do believe in evil eyes, and I do believe in bad energy. Like, I was so traumatized by the number of obstacles that came on my path that I completely had to change my entire business trajectory to make it less dependent on digital marketing altogether. That's how bad it was. But I think at this point, everybody's just so curious about what I do that I had to talk about it. First things first, what do I do? In terms of my profession, I'm professionally an entrepreneur. Like, I run two businesses. That's my actual profession. I have two companies. One is called Artificient International LLP, and the other one is called the Macro Project Construction Studio. Even that is an LLP. Artificient is actually a retail brand. It's a premium stationery brand that runs in the retail, and the other one is a construction company where we build buildings, commercial buildings. So that's about like the summary of my businesses, and I'll tell you how exactly I started these businesses, given I'm just 25 and a lot of people find it amusing to know that I have like two companies already when I'm just 25. I'll tell you how all of that unveiled. I'm gonna talk about my businesses as a little story, like from how it started. It'll make more sense to you if I start with how it all started, like if I talk about it as a story. So we're gonna start from the beginning of where it began. I come from a complete business family background, so I'm exposed to business since forever. Like, that's the profession that I'm highly exposed to. And just like how doctors end up having their children becoming doctors, I think for me, business was like the thing, you know, that I always wanted to get into. My family business was primarily sandalwood. They used to manufacture sandalwood oil, and they used to have a bunch of like factories it was primarily revolving around sandalwood. And then I think when the laws changed, and especially when my grandpa passed away, it kind of shifted to construction and stuff. So my father was into construction quite a lot, and I've seen him in the field, and that was another thing that really amused me. And I had a natural inclination towards design and interior design and everything because Mama used to be really good at architecture. She's not an architect by profession, but she is one of those people that used to amuse architects when she used to speak about plans and when she used to walk around with floor plans and stuff. So she is naturally gifted in architecture and design and everything, and she had a good taste. And my dad was in the construction field as a businessman. So I kind of like am exposed to both these ends, and I think they've passed down a pretty good interest and skill when it comes to these fields. I started my first business when I was in 5th grade. That was a phone case customization company at a point in time where phone case customization was not even a thing, and I used to be one of the only children with a touchscreen phone at that point in time. This was in 5th grade, and I remember my first phone was Corby. It was like this touchscreen phone from Samsung. I think this was their first touchscreen launch. My classmates used to not have phones, but their moms used to have phones. I used to customize phone cases for my friends' moms, for my aunt's neighbors, and all of these aunties generally. That was doing really well, and then I shut it down because my exams came up. So I used to have these little PPT brochures on my phone that I'd made with a bunch of different designs that they could opt for, including like artsy designs, gaudy, you know, party wear designs with glitter, painted designs, hand painted designs, and a bunch of things like that for daily use, for party use and stuff. I think that is how it started. Then I started a jewelry business with my cousin called the Wacky Store. This was, I think, when I was in 7th. After that, it is when I was in 8th that I started Artificient. Now, Artificient was initially started as a small business where I used to sell my paintings. I used to be a little artsy as well. So I used to paint a lot and I used to sell my paintings, my clay art, my clay miniature art and everything on this Instagram page called Artificient that I started as a small business. Now, this is at a time where Instagram was not even this big of a deal, like it was not that prominent. So Instagram business is where I think outside of Kerala, but especially in Kerala, it was not that big of a deal. I used to not have my face on it, no hands on it, just my products. By the time I started Artificient, I'd already like started and shut down so many small businesses that I made this little promise to myself that I'm never gonna shut down Artificient no matter what, and I'll make sure this works one way or the other. My father used to involve me in his business decisions since I was a kid because he found my ideas important, or at least like useful is what I'm guessing. His father, like my granddad, also used to be one of those people who used to be really receptive of opinions and feedback regardless of, you know, a person's qualificational background. If he thinks you have got substance, he'll listen to you and he'll even take your advice and suggestions. So I used to be part of his financial decisions since such a young age, like since 7th or so. Another business influence that I have that created a very strong business base for me was that I took IGCSE ACA levels for my schooling, which is Cambridge's international syllabus. So I think ICSE is India's international syllabus and IGCSE is Cambridge's international syllabus. And I studied IGCSE ACA levels. IGCSE is the 10th grade exam of Cambridge. AS level is +1, India's +1, and A level is India's +2. So during these years, I took business studies as one of my subjects, as IGCSE allows you to take the subjects that you want to study. You can pick and choose. So for me, I didn't do history, I didn't do politics, I didn't do geography. Instead, I did economics, I did business studies. That's what I replaced geography and politics with. So doing business studies from 8th grade, business studies and economics from 8th grade till 12th grade did give me a really solid theoretical foundation of business as well. Things that we cover during these years for IGCSE ACA levels are very similar to what you cover for an MBA. So it gives a super solid business base if you're getting into business. When I was in 12th, my dad had this was right before COVID. We had this plan to execute a resort in one of his lands. For that construction, while this was going on, Papa wanted me to draw the plan of the resort that he had in mind. The reason was that he has always seen me draw plans for my dream house, actual commercial looking plans for my dream house. To have this little planner to myself, like a journal where I used to draw and sketch my dream house and stuff, and even plans for it. And at one point I went as far as drawing a proper looking plan using like a commercial app with which you can do floor plans, and I managed to fit in all the essentials in a very small space. So this used to be one of the things that my dad really found impressive. So when he wanted to execute this resort plan, he actually let me execute my idea for the resort, and I sat down, I drew the plan that I think worked the best for the resort, and he found it really impressive. So he took me to his senior architect, and then even his senior architect really found it impressive that I was just this 12th grade student who had no background in architecture or interior design going ahead and doing like a whole floor plan that is actually viable as such. I sat with a senior architect and I actually standardized the plans. That's when I decided probably this is something that I actually want to take seriously, and maybe this is the business that I want to do. I'm in 12th grade, so this is the perfect time for me to choose what career path I have to finalize on. One option for me was to take architecture and do like a 5 to 7 years of degree and then start a construction company. Anyway, I knew like the end goal was a construction company because I always wanted to build a company of my own, and construction company was really close to my heart as I grew up seeing this. The next option was to do a BSc in interior design and get like an idea of how construction works on a micro level, especially on a spatial designing level, and then start a construction company. Now, I would definitely choose the latter over studying architecture for 5 to 7 years only to appoint other architects under me. So it made no sense to waste 5 to 7 years if I was not willing to practice architecture, because to own a construction company, you don't have to be an architect, nor do you need extensive knowledge about architecture. You just need to appoint architects under you. And in order to make the delegation process more effective, you have to be knowledgeable about what you're delegating. For me, the primary priority for me was to make sure that I'm efficient at delegating, because that's end of the day what I'm going to do. So I did a BSc in interior design and I specialized in nano and micro design. If you want me to do a detailed video on whether you should be taking architecture or interior designing, do let me know in the comments, and I would love to make a detailed video on why I chose interior designing over architecture and why you should choose architecture or interior designing depending on the use case. So coming back to my story, after I did my bachelor's, I wanted to do my master's as well. I'll come back to the master's story. This is a story that a lot of people don't know. As we're going in the chronological order, after my bachelor's is when I thought I will legalize my businesses. I wanted to actually register Artificient as a business because during my college days, I did another thing. Also launched my first product on Artificient, which was a planner. And I launched my first planner when I was, I think, in the first year of college. Now, planners and journals weren't as massive of an industry as it is right now. It was a very niche industry back in the day. This was like 4-5 years ago, and planners and journals were extremely expensive at that point in time. Like, it was just a couple of brands doing it, and those used to be like 2,000 rupees, 3,000 rupees for a planner. And the funny bit was the consumer base was primarily students who couldn't afford a 3,000 rupee planner mostly. I wanted to launch a budget friendly planner, and then I launched a budget friendly planner for the first time in India. That was around 300-350 rupees. Like, the jump is from 2,000 to 300-350, including all of the essentials that you possibly need in a planner that comes off, that is there in like the expensive planners. And that kind of blew up. Sold hundreds of copies the first time I launched it. I was also kind of famous because I was working with this company called English House during my break after my A-levels, after my +2 and before my college. Levels is the +2 of IGCSE, and the academic year is slightly different. It's from January to December. So after December board exams, you have like this whole 6 months gap until you catch up with the Indian academic system. When Corona is happening, the pandemic is happening simultaneously, and in the beginning of this this break that I was having, my cousin had sent me like this poster talking about a job vacancy that anybody could apply to as long as you know English really well. You just have to talk to people in English and you get paid for that. And I'm sitting simply at home just doing my college applications and waiting for my A-level results. And when I saw this application, like when I saw this like job vacancy advertisement that my cousin sent me, I had to call them up. I called them up and I was talking to the MD of the firm, and he really found my communication impressive and he wanted me to take up a different role. Instead of being a personal trainer, which was not paid really well, he wanted me to take up the role of a content creator for their Instagram handle. My first pay was around 50,000 a month, and I was like, why not? This was when I was 18, no, when I was 19. I've not even stepped in college at that point in time. Initially, I was a little hesitant because I hated, like, I used to love public speaking. I used to love being on stage, having like an audience, but I used to hate being in front of the camera because it's not as fun as being on stage, as you're talking to a camera and you're not talking to people and you don't get to see people's reaction and everything. But I did end up doing it, and that page went viral because of me. They did really well because of me. For the next 2 years, I was their primary content creator and people used to think this was my company. I became pretty famous in Kerala at that point in time because this was the mother company who did something like this, which was teach English through WhatsApp. Later on, a lot of competitors came up, a lot of people came up, and the industry became hella saturated. But at the same time, I was like the first few pioneers in this industry, and I got really viral because of that. So what I did was, in 12th grade, when I was getting like really famous and I already had like a social presence because of this English house, I kind of like redirected the fame to my personal page where I was selling these planners. So that's how I started getting followers on my page, and I started building Artificient as a page. So the Instagram community that you see right now, which is in my name, Fatima Huda Bedi, that was not in my name initially. It was Artificient's page, which I later on changed to my name because I had to separate the business from my page, and I changed Artificient's page to my page, my personal Instagram community, and then I started a different Instagram handle for Artificient. That's what happened. So coming back to my business, these years I was growing as an influencer on Instagram, and at the same time I was growing my business, which was Artificient at that point in time. Degree first year, second year, third year and everything. 2-3 years I did Artificient as a small business. Like the 3 years in college, I was doing Artificient as a small business where I was selling just the planners. That was our flagship product and it was doing really well. In fact, even the third year of college, even when I didn't have the time to, do this, I was forced to sell the planners towards the end of every year because of the customer demand for the product. product. After 3 years, I decided I'm going to go about it. Like after college, I decided I'm going to actually legalize the business and I'm going to register the business as a proper business and run it like formally. I registered this as an LLP company. LLP is like mix of partnership and a limited company. Like you get to have the perks of a partnership and a limited company with limited liability. So that's how an LLP works, and it's an amazing format if you are registering your company because it gives a lot of freedom, a lot of ease. It's going to be a little more expensive, but it's worth it. Registered for GST, everything is registered, everything is on board. It's a complete formal business at this point. We also expanded our product line. We went from one flagship product to like around 12 to 15 SKUs. All of this I did within 1 year. Within 1 year, I've launched my website, I've registered the business, I've expanded my product line from 1 to 15 SKUs. I ran an e-commerce format for a whole year. The team was also growing simultaneously. Like our employees were growing. We had a bunch of people working under us. I had like a whole warehouse doing the production of the business. We used to manufacture all the products end to end. When this got automated, I started stepping into retail. So we started with one of the biggest retail stationery brands in Kerala. I'm not going to name any of these brands because that's going to create chaos. But yeah, my first retail tie-up happened with one of the biggest stationery retailers in Kerala. They really loved our products to our point. They wanted us to keep the products in all of their 5 major stores across Kerala. That was a big progress for us. Within the first year of retail expansion, we are already across 5 major stationery stores in Kerala. The sad part was these people never paid us back. We had a credit period agreement for 2 to 3 months, and I had a plan A, plan B, plan C, everything intact. But despite all of my efforts, we never got our payments back for the next 1 year. And that was a huge stall to my business growth because this was right when we started retail and we had put in a lot of investment. There's a lot of we had set up a whole team. Everything is just going so smoothly. But this liquidity crisis that occurred stalled my business progress altogether for a whole year. And we had to fight back for a whole year to get back our money. And by the time we got back our money, which took a whole year, the whole business progress that I've made in the last 3 years came to a stall. It was so bad that I had to dismiss off my teams. I had to cut down on the employment cost. I had to cut. I couldn't reinvest for the next batch of products. It was a misery altogether for the next 2 years, and that fully drained me. And because the amount of effort that I've put into this was beyond what I could imagine, and to see everything just breaking into shambles in front of you is not a joke. And even the amount of monetary loss that I had to go through was heartbreaking. I've also cracked a zero investment strategy for the business. I've completely run it without any investment. Everything that I've invested was what I made from the business. So just imagine how much time and effort it would have taken me to make sure there's enough investment for me to put up for such a massive retail expansion. In the beginning of this business itself, it was not a joke, and I'm the only person. I don't have partners. I've no one helping me. I have a legal partner, which is my dad, because he has a 10% stake in my company, because I need a partner for legal purposes to register my company as an LLP. But he's not involved in this particular business of mine. It's completely me who's running it. As a college going student, to do this for 3-4 years and to completely take it to this level within a year's time when I finally registered it formally, it was a massive amount of work. So that is when I decided I'm not going to talk about my business again on social media. While this was going on, I had also started my construction company and I was handling it side by side. Let's talk about the construction company. I think the construction company I started again soon after, a year after my bachelor's, and then I registered the company, and the first work that I took up was my dad's work. I have to be a builder if I have to get into the construction company. One thing is that you need some kind of work to showcase. Unfortunately, it's like how you need experience to gain experience. So for that, thankfully my dad had a work. He had a renovation work of one of his buildings, which I took up, and then I completely executed that, and that work gave me a lot of credits. I was able to execute that particular work in an impossible budget That project harnessed a lot of credits because initially for that particular, it was an old building of my dad's which required renovation. He's already had his discussions with his senior architects and everything. There's a code that he was given and stuff, and I took up the project and I was able to execute the same project in an unbelievable budget, and at the same time everybody was really happy with the outcome because it was perfect for what they wanted. Amongst his architects and amongst his network, my first work did a great job. So I got really confident as well. I never wanted to start an architecture firm, and the reason why I specifically wanted a construction firm as such is because I hate having to design according to other people's preference. Like, I like having complete autonomy in everything that I do. So my idea was that I should be able to make buildings the way I want to make it. Like, I don't want to listen to other people. And then even with this particular work, like the first renovation work which I had to take up, even though it's my own dad's, I still had like a lot of things that I wish I could change. Like, let's say the budget, or let's say the complete design of it. Like, you cannot completely execute things as per your capacity when you're working with other people's projects, which is why I specifically wanted to become a builder. After that, I had plans for my first very own project from scratch, completely like my project. That one has been stalled for a whole year right now. Even that is completely stalled for a whole year because of government obstacles, because of documentation process and everything. So well, yeah, that's about my two companies. This is what it's doing, and I've been on a sabbatical from both of my businesses since some time, and it's running on autopilot at this point. Like, especially Artificient, it's running in the background. Like, the tie-ups that we have with our current retailers, it's ongoing, but at the same time there's no like major expansion that is happening at the moment because I've been taking a sabbatical, and I have to get back to it as soon as possible because otherwise this is not sustainable for the business as such. It's so sad because in the last 5 years I've built two companies, I've built a charitable trust, I've built an Instagram community, all while I was also clinically depressed, and I was in the pinnacle of depression all throughout these 5 years. At this point, like, I think the last 6 months to a year, I have completely taken a break from work. I've not been hustling the way I used to. I was not working. In fact, my whole idea of life has completely changed. My ambitions have worn out. I'm not like as ambitious as I used to be, and I think a lot of it comes from healing as well, because ambitions are usually fueled, unfortunately, by a lot of ego, and I used to be very egoistic, and at this point I think a lot of healing has been done to a point. I have lost my ego to a drastic amount. I don't give two shits about being successful. I don't give two shits about how other people think about me. I don't give two shits about external and societal validation about especially when it comes to my success, when it comes to my business growth. Like, at this point, all that I want is to earn enough to have like a chill life. At least at this point, businesses and growth and money and all of these things are not the most important things to me. So I've been taking a chill pill since the last 1 year. And I think one of the things that I did as the first step to start taking a chill pill is also to move to Bangalore and get settled over here, to take a break from my businesses. So at this point, I just go back to Kerala because my office, my warehouse, everything is in Kerala. It's in Calicut. So I, at this point, go back to Calicut every other month. So 1 month I come here in Bangalore, I chill, I just stay, I take a break from business and work and everything. And then I go back to Calicut for the next month. I keep alternating between Kerala and Bangalore is my retreat. Like, I come here, I take a break from all kinds of business that I do, and go back to Calicut, and then I hustle, and then I come back here the next month. So this is what has been happening with me. Continuing my educational background and my educational plan as such, after my bachelor's I really wanted to do my master's, but bachelor's I wanted to do a business master's. But then my company started growing at that point in time, and that's why like I completely lost focus, and I was like, I'll just do it some other time, and probably it's not even necessary because I'm doing well in business, so why masters? But then I later understood it's always nice to have like a certificate, not because, see, a certificate is only practically useful, logistically useful if you're looking forward to be employed. Like, if you want to be employed, then a certificate is important. But if you are running your own companies, as long as you're able to do it, if you have the experience, if you have the knowledge base for that, it's not really a need, but it was a want for me. Like, I actually wanted to do my master's for the sake of the certificate. So one fine day I decided to write my IELTS exam. Then to my surprise, I got a full score. I think for writing it was an 8.5 out of 9, and for the rest of it was a complete 9, like speaking, listening, everything was a complete 9 on 9. And I didn't know it was a big deal because I See, I was told by one of my friends that it's pretty similar to our 8th grade exam, IGCSE 8th grade exam, because we used to have like these listening, writing, speaking, all of these segregations to our exams. And it was pretty similar to that. So I didn't even know that people actually went for training. So I haven't done any preparations for IELTS, by the way. Like I literally just went in and wrote the exam one fine day. And the only information I had about it was that I checked the format of the exam the night before the exam. That's all that I know about IELTS. So I used to not even talk about this to anyone, thinking that everybody gets these scores. Then I was told later on when I started talking about the scores to people is when I got to know that it was actually a very rare score for someone writing IELTS to get like a complete score, to get a complete 9 on 9, especially for speaking. And I was really happy. So after seeing my IELTS score, my audacity kind of grew. And I was like, let's apply to an Ivy League college, because Cambridge had a course that fit all of my requirements. And it was a particular course that I really wanted to get into. And I applied to that. And well, I got in at Cambridge also. Now came the time where I had to choose between investing a CR, like 1 CR or more on my master's, or investing the same amount for my business. Now, the thing is, as I'm not looking forward to get employed, a degree certificate is almost useless to me. It's just to like brag. And at that point in time, my business was also picking up so well that I thought it was smarter for me to invest that money into my business than for a degree that is just going to be there for me to brag about. Because despite it being an Ivy League certificate, I'm not going to do anything about it, because I'm not going to go get employed. I'm only going to run my own companies, which I'm able to run regardless of having a degree. So I was like, why not? It's just such a foolish decision to invest that money for societal validation. So I didn't go to Cambridge after all of this. GCSE AC levels till 12th, BSc in interior design with a specialization in macro and nano spaces for my bachelor's, and an unfulfilled dream for my master's. Now coming to my income streams, what I make with Artificient, I always reinvest because it's in its scaling stage. Everything that it makes is reinvested. So I'm not making anything out of Artificient. I don't think I'll be taking any money from Artificient for the next 1 or 2 years, because all of it is going to go back into reinvestment. Then we have the macro project. That is a seedling startup again. I made like a good amount for my first project. But again, reinvestment, second project is on the way. And so I'm not going to take anything from this construction company also for a good time, because this is also going to be for my asset building. It's not really for my disposable income. It's not going to contribute to my disposable income anytime soon. Then my disposable income comes from Instagram. I make my disposable income through Instagram paid promotions, and yeah, all of that. Everything that I do on Instagram is where my disposable income comes from. The rest of like my businesses are just my contributions to asset building. It's not like as crazy as you would think it is, given I have like 2 companies and all of that. You have to understand, most of the time business owners are almost broke for the first 1 decade, because most of the money just goes into building the business, and it's more or less like building an asset than building a source of disposable income. When you're, like it's a gigantic plan. It's a long-term vision. It's not like a short-term fill your pocket sort of situation. Where does my investments come from? Majority of my investments come from my savings and, all of that reinvestment that I was talking about. Whatever the business makes is reinvested back. But I cannot disagree if you say that my financial family background comes into play, because my dad is my business partner even for my construction firm. He has Papa has 10% stake, Mama has 10% stake, and I have 80% stake for my construction firm. With the stakes also comes their expertise, also major stakeholders in my company, because they're the only ones who has a decision making power in my company other than me. With the construction company, the networks that I use comes from his end. So there's a lot of support there, undeniably. What are my future plans? My future plans are going to be very ironic compared to everything that I just told you, because at this point I don't have much future plans going on. I feel like a lot of my ambitions were fueled by my ego. I've healed a lot since trying to recover from depression. All that I want is to make just enough money to survive and have a chill life. I don't think I'm very ambitious at this point. I am not looking forward to lead the market or have the highest market shares or nothing of that sort anymore. I just want to chill and I just want to make enough to have a good lifestyle, and I've lost all my ambitions. No longer fixated on my business growth as well. I'm just going with the flow. Have I taken loans? I haven't taken any loans, and I think that was also coming from a place of privilege because my family can back me up financially. And I think I've saved up a lot of money in terms of my office. Like, my office is in my father's building, so that already saves up a lot of money, a lot of rental cost. I just don't have to pay a lot to my dad for the space. And I also did something very smart, which was to utilize an underutilized space in his building, which was of no use to him. And anyway, his building was my registered address for my companies as well, so it helps. It's all like aligned because of that. And even my CA, my complete auditing team, my legal team, all of these people are my dad's team. Like, they are handling my finances, they are handling my legalities, they are handling my auditing, they're just handling everything. So thanks to my dad, a lot of my work has been eased like that. Allahumma barik, mashallah. But alhamdulillah, undeniably there's a lot of cushioning. The reason why I'm being very transparent about my financial cushioning is because I don't want someone without these privileges to think that they're not doing enough by listening to my success story. That might sound like a success story to a lot of people, but honestly, it's also a lot of privilege that plays into all of this. I want to know further about my education, IGCSE, everything. Like, a lot of people get intrigued about IGCSE, ACA levels, and they want to know like how this works and how it's different from the Indian syllabus and all of that. If you're intrigued about that, you can ask me in the comments, and I would love to make another video about this. I would love to make another video about interior designing over architecture, or architecture over interior designing, like the comparison between these two. I would love to guide you through starting your own business. You let me know in the comments. I'm open to making videos and sharing my knowledge and experience with anyone, as long as it helps. If you fancy the kind of content that I make, do make sure you follow me on Instagram. Do make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and yes, do watch all of my videos. Thank you. Bye.